have a very extra
Special!
Like special.
guest, Joe Queer of the Queers, one of my favorite people, and one of my childhood idols. The host with the most.
She gets a boner for him.
Yeah.
Yes. The man who made us unable to stop farting.
Oh my god, I can't stop farting. Shit.
The man who was born to do dishes, but actually became a punk rock star.
A man who does everything at 1, 2, 3, 4.
And a man who
found out that Ursula finally had tits.
Is tripping.
Who has lovely dogs. Awesome dogs.
He does.
Awesome dogs.
And wrote a
lovely
great song.
Wife.
Yes. Mimi.
Mimi. We love you, Mimi.
Yes.
All right. So without further ado, the one, the only. Joe Queer! Yeah. Give a hand to Joe Queer, everybody. Just give a hand to Joe Queer.
Woo! So I'm going to start. We were going to try to be organized and put them in order, but then we kind of started practicing and ran out of time. To be honest, we were kind of irresponsible. So I'm just going to jump in and say, what was your favorite album that you ever made and why? Like personally, like I was just saying, when I was growing up, I still am, the biggest Queers fan. I loved you guys. I've seen you like so many times before I actually knew you and found out what an awesome person you are in real life. But Don't Back Down and Love Songs for the Retarded were like on my CD player. I might have even had a cassette at the time. I don't remember.
I ask you.
It's so like I just love every song on both of those. And so, like,
question 4.
personal favorite album that you've made, or a favorite song, and why?
Well, we've been playing so long that it's like hard to say a favorite album. At the time we did Love Songs, you know, that was real exciting for us because we got on Lookout. Green Day was there even before they had done Dookie, you know, so it was exciting. And Screeching Weasel, My Brain Hurts, they had just put that out. So that was a really exciting time. But Don't Back Down was probably when we took it to a different level, and so that was probably one of my favorites. That was a big album for ours where, excuse me, and you know, we had done Move Back Home and Beat Off, and it wasn't very good, and then so we did Don't Back Down, and I thought that was it was really fun musically, and to do a song, you know, I really thought we hit the nail on the head with that album. So that's
such a good album.
Those are 2 of my faves, really favorite ones right there.
And do you think like I just want to like add a question onto that question, like were there any like specific, like were a lot of your songs, I remember you telling me a story about Born to Do Dishes that was based on a real life person, like did you write a lot from personal experience, like Can't Stop Farting? I mean what was the thought process behind that song?
That particular song was, I had a restaurant, B-Face, and Hugh worked there, and I think it was B-Face hungover. He's like, oh, I go, how's it going, dude? Because he was hungover to hell. He goes, oh, man, I can't stop farting. So, you know, a lot of times in life, you guys, you know, you'll write something down, it's funny, and you write it down. And then we kind of came up with it and jammed at the rehearsal, and then we knew Ben Weasel, so we sent the song to him for lyrics, and he called up and he gave us the lyrics, and it was real exciting for us. So that's where that one came from. Sometimes Ursula finally has tits, same thing. This girl asked me to write a song for her. She's still around.
Was she going through puberty when you wrote that song? Was she like just
kinda? Yeah, kinda. She was, her mom would drop her off with us. We'd have house parties and stuff. And she was younger, but she knew, the mom was nice, but she knew we would take care of Ursula. You know, nobody would touch Ursula. So anyway, someone sitting around drunk, you know, a year or 2 down the road after we met her, and she was probably 14 or 15. And someone said, geez, Ursula's finally getting to, you know, when you say stupid shit when you're drunk. Yeah. And so, that she kept saying, write a song for me, Joe, write a song for me. And so I wrote it to her. The first time we played it was when we played with NoFX at the University of New Hampshire. So, but anyway, yeah, that's where that came from. But then Deborah Jean, I just thought was a good song title, so I just stuck with that. It wasn't about anybody. So, you know, you never know. We take song titles and I write them down. And then sometimes I always envision, in my mind, I always look at the back of the album and think, if I pick this album up and these are the song titles, will I like it? And that's how I always look at it. And so I did it with this album too. And I was like, oh man, yeah, okay, this is going to be great. We got a song called Attacking the 5 Foot Bitch. We've Attacking the 50 Foot Woman. But then I got a song Shit for Brain. You know, I kind of look at the thing and go, if I saw this, like I saw the back of Boogada Boogada by Screeching Weasel, and we had heard of them, and then I saw I Hate Led Zeppelin, and from that moment on, I said, I don't have to hear it. I love this band. They're my favorite band. So that's kind of how I look at that stuff. And I've got like 3 pages of song titles. I was sitting around for the new album, and I had a good little riff, and then I looked at my list, and I was like, oh, what'll work? I had written down Nightmare to Deal With about 5 years ago, and I said, so I came up with a song, used it for it's one of the best songs called Nightmare to Deal With. She's a real nightmare to deal with, but I'm not going anywhere. That one's going to be a pretty big hit for us, that one. So that's how I do it. Just, you know, when you're goofing around, driving in the car, all you coming back from a gig, someone's babe says something dumb. I know it's wrong for him, but anyway.
Not him.
Oh, of course not.
And you keep it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a song. So that's kind of how I always approach it. And I did on this album. I just had this list, and I just started from it. So
you usually
that's great.
To kind of just add another question to that question. You usually are you more melody driven, like in your head? Like, do you have a melody? I got to write this down. I got to record this into my voice recorder, or is it more like, okay, like what you just said, like I came up with an idea, now I have to figure out a melody to fit it.
Well,
to fit that idea.
I usually just write if I think it's a good song title, I don't really have much of an idea behind it. I just think it's a good title, usually. But then I always think if it's a good, catchy chorus, then I said I can usually pull the song off. If we got to have a good, catchy chorus, because people always tell me anyway, they remember our songs. They remember Deborah Jean, they remember Your Truth, they remember Love, 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 and they remember Monster Zero, and I Don't Want to Be a Good Friend, which is the problem with a lot of bands, which you guys know. You're good. You guys have a great song. You go to see a band, and you watch them for an hour, and you go, son of a bitch, I can't remember one song.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, it's not. So I always try to go get a good chorus going. A lot of times I'll just think it's a cool song title, and I'll jam around and came up with a song Shit for Brains. And, if I've got a good chorus, I always do start with the chorus, then bridge, and I back into it that way. But, that's usually how I do it. I have the chorus, and then I write the rest of it. I told Ben Weasel that, and that's how he says he writes now. So it's kind of funny, a great songwriter, but I don't usually have it mapped out ahead of time. I never hardly ever go first and then trying to get a chorus and stuff. I usually have this thing and pick the guitar up and you start playing and go, geez, that worked for Shit for Brains or, Attacking the 5 Foot Bitch or whatever. But
I'm gonna.
We did this one song. I'll send you an MP3 of it, a rough mix. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to, of course, play it now. It's not done, but the song, If I Had a Girl Like You, I want you to hear it, Val, especially because you can imagine just the verse, right? And like I said, that song was okay. And then all of a sudden, it came up with all those back vocal parts one by one. And all of a sudden, I think it's my favorite song in the album. And same thing with a song that, would have been a great song for Joey Ramone to sing in a solo album called Let the Rain Wash Away My Tears. Kind of a 50s ballady type thing. He could have really stuck his teeth into it. Same thing. Came up with that, and just on its own, it's pretty good. But then we added this back vocal and that. All of a sudden, it turns the whole thing around. So I want to send those to you because you'll appreciate, understand where the songwriting went. You'll go, oh, I understand. He had this. Then he did this. And then all of a sudden, geez, this will fit. But the secret isn't coming up with all the parts. You're a great singer. You could sing 50 parts on this. The secret is knowing when to stop, when it's enough. You know what I mean? And say, every once in a while we'll have one little extra thing. But usually we're pretty good. You got to know when to stop. That's the whole secret. Because some bands get way too busy. I just tried
with the layers.
I mention their name. They asked me to listen to a song, and I said, "Yeah, it's good. It's just way too fucking busy." But whatever. So
I don't like that either. I like more simple stuff. Yeah.
Do you know that "Don't Back Down," the song Lisa Mars sang, "I Can't Get Over You"? skies turning into gray when I look passing by the places that we used to be. And then we went into the end part. I know it's stupid and I know it's bad. I know a lot, but I can't get over you. And it's just G, C, D, C, back and forth. And it's like, so the first part's ba 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 ba. Then the second part's like ba 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 ba. So you got those two, and then Lisa comes in with a I can't forget you. So it's three, and that's what Joey Ramone liked. He told me he wanted to work with us. We talked about working on a 4-song EP because he said, I love the Beach Boys vocals. I would love to be able to do that. We never did it with the Ramones. It's a whole other place I never went to, and I would love it. So it was kind of interesting that he had that take on it. Of course, he was the one, too. He always told me, we had Deborah Jean off Love Songs, and Joey, we opened up for him a few times. He always loved that song. And he goes, that's a great, you guys are a punk band, but, you know, if you just stay punk for the sake of staying punk, you never write songs like that because you're worried about your image. And so let the music take you where you want. Joey told me when they did Road to Ruin and came up with this song, Questioningly, do you guys know that song? It's kind of a lesser song off Road to Ruin. Listen to it when you get up. And it was a real departure for the Ramones. I was like, man, it's got like a piano and stuff. But Joey said that was a real stretch for us. And then they did Pleasant Dreams with a 10cc singer, and musically KKK Took My Baby Away and stuff. So he said, always, you know, push the music and let the music, don't worry about being punk, just let the music take you where you go. It sounds corny advice, but yet if it wasn't for Joey, I wouldn't have tried songs like I Always Knew, or I mean, I kind of, maybe I would have, but you know what I'm saying. It's like stuff even on this new album, If I Had a Girl Like You and Let the Rain Wash Away My Tears. I mean, what do you guys hear? They are killer. Joey told me to. He goes, listen, man, you don't have to read the New York Times to know if you got a good song. You know it, you know? So those songs are going to be killer. And Val, you'll appreciate them because you'll say, oh, he started with this. Oh, all of a sudden, you know, and you're going to listen to it and you'll say, geez, this part might fit too. You know, it's kind of fun. It's almost like a math equation. Yeah. But again, not getting too busy. You know, because it's not that you'll sing off key, it's that it's not needed. So, but anyway, I'm excited for you guys to have that, listen to that stuff. So that's how I approach it.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe, you were mentioning too about like, you know, bands just like being punk for like this, just the sake of being punk. But I felt like since we were on the subject of like Don't Back Down and like Love Songs and all those like 90s scene, when you had all those bands, you know, they were at the time, I felt like they were like pushing boundaries, like you guys, Screeching Weasel, Green Day, Offspring, and all those bands. But I personally wanted to know, like, between now, like back then and like now, the punk scene, like, do you feel like it's like the changes in it is like it's gone from better to worse, or do you think it's just like bands now are just they don't have a clue of what's going on, like how to write, they're just doing it just like fit in, or it's just like
well, you get a lot of bands, and the first thing, they want to look cool. They got to have the T-shirt by the cool band. They've got to have this, you know, they got to have their hair. And the last thing on the list, you know, they get the bass player that looks cool and the drummer that looks cool. The last thing on the list is writing songs. You know, they think they could just sit in the toilet and write a good song. And no, you can't. I mean, you can, but you know what I'm saying. These songs, you listen to them and they're okay, but they don't try to take them anywhere, and they're just like, and they're just okay. So they're kind of, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's too bad. So bands are more worried about their image, I think. And the scene now, the problem with punk rock is that it's so PC. You know, before it was like everybody was welcome. Yeah, everybody. We went to Berkeley, and when we had done Love Songs, we thought they were all hippies, you guys. You know, it's like these crazy nuts. I won't even mention all the bands that from in Berkeley, California, you know. And they would have this crazy communist-type view on life and everything. But you were welcome. You didn't hate them because they had a different idea. You know, yeah, we thought some of them were whacked out, but it was a welcoming scene. It's where the Misfits came, not the band. But you know what I mean? Everybody was welcome. You know, you'd have fat kids that get beat up by their parents or whatever. They were in punk, you know, come on in, you had a home. You had friends and real friends. Look at back in the Kennedys and Black Flag, the Circle Jerks. They all got their view across through humor. They were laughing at themselves. Right. What a great lesson, man. What a great lesson. And now it's like, I'll say I don't like some certain band or something, I'll get death threats. It's like, no, man. It's crazy. So the scene has been hijacked. Can you imagine if we came out with our album was called Love Songs for the Retarded? We would get annihilated for calling the album that. It's a great, great album title. But yet, you think about it, it's like, of course nobody knew we were picking on, mentally disabled people. I mean, come on, we all knew it.
People also take themselves way too seriously, I feel like, too. It's just like, come on, it's not meant, sometimes it's not meant to direct attack at someone, it's just, but they take it that way. And it's going back to, like, they just take themselves way too fucking seriously.
I fully expect to get shit, you guys, off the song title Attack of the 5-Foot Bitch, because we say bitch. I mean, nobody cares, but I fully, we're not changing it, but you watch, okay? I bet we get shit for that. Yeah, that'll be
I already love it, so, oh my God.
Obviously a takeoff the old 50s sci-fi movie, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. And it's funny, we all bitch about our partners, our spouses, come on. So that's what it's about. So obviously tongue in cheek, but anyway, yeah, it's changed a lot. But yet, with music, you meet the greatest people I've found too. You meet a lot of jerks, but that's life, right? But yet, think you go through music and you meet the coolest people too. And I've been able to do it my whole life, and I'm still doing it. So that was something I dreamt about doing in high school. You know what I mean? I have made the best pals. I get shit online. It's like whatever. You just gotta let it roll off your back. But it's a fun thing, and there's a lot more to it. You don't have to be in the Rolling Stones or Blondie, any huge band to really get so much out of music. And matter of fact, in a lot of ways, as bands, smaller bands like us and you guys and everything, we probably get more from music in a lot of ways than being in some huge band where we think our shit doesn't stink and we turn into a bunch of pompous assholes. And again, I won't name names, but I've seen some famous ones, and you get to do a great thing. You're like a millionaire for music and all that, and you're a dick to your roadie. Fuck you, dude. Go manage a time.
Yeah.
Dude. Fuck you. And that was the great thing about Joey. He'd call me in the morning. We talk about music, T-Rex, Martha Hoople, this, and I realized what got him out of bed in the morning. He was still so excited about music. Just a simple little another song, and it's so. Not what girl is left with, not how much money, not how many people from Rio de Janeiro to the Ramones show. It was about another song. So it was really interesting to get to know him at least that far and realize what got him out of bed in the morning was certainly not, he couldn't care less about being famous. It was just that, it was working on another, music really moved him right to the end. After all he had done, he was still so excited about music. So that was a really cool thing about him, I thought.
And to me, that's inspiring to me because everybody knows where the Ramones are. So it's just like to see someone like that, like be that down to earth, like the Ramones. Like to me, and the punks, who doesn't know who the Ramones are? So.
Actually, the new kids that are wearing the shirts don't know who they are because I asked the kid. I said, "Oh, cool! I like your Ramones shirt." He goes, "Who, the Ramones?"
Yeah.
And I said,
"Oh yeah."
I said, "Where'd you get that shirt if you don't know who it is?" He's like, "Oh, I got this at Target."
Val, the Ramones is like a clothing line. They don't know.
Yeah, really.
They don't know. So that's a good point. Yeah.
So,
all right, babe, you go.
So, I want to piggyback off that a little bit. There's a lot of young bands that could really benefit by your experience in the industry. You've been rocking out for decades. What do you want to say to bands that are in the industry now? If you could herald in a new generation of punk bands, to what sage words would you give them to be better, to be a better band, to build up the scene, and to just to it's good.
People ask me that all the time, and I say, number one, just have fun. Remember, and also number two. The best times I've had in life, when I look back, honestly, had nothing whatsoever to do with making money. A lot of people are like, "Oh, do you have a tour bus? Do you fly?" That's success. Them, no. Just have fun and the fun. I'm hanging out, working with you guys. We had a blast. That's the special stuff to me. It's not how much fucking I made on my last royalty check, and I don't know if I did. I might not have told you guys the story, but This guy comes up to me last year at a show, and he said, "Hey, Joe, can I talk to you?" About probably 43 years old or something. Normal looking dude. I says, "Yeah, sure." I go, "What's up?" He goes, my best friend could not come to the show, but he wanted me to tell you that you saved his life." Did I tell you guys that story?
I think you did.
I guess not. So I'm like, so that caught my attention. You know, it's after the show and I'm near the merch table. I says, "Really?" And he said we're the same age and he was going to kill himself. He was going to kill himself. And he said, "Joe, he didn't do it because you wrote to him. He wrote to 5 or 6 bands and you were the only one. Nobody, he was ready and he had a gun that he had gotten. He was going to kill himself. He showed his friend afterwards, this guy I'm talking to. The guy's got tears in his eyes. And he said, all of a sudden your letter showed up and you gave me your phone number. I don't know if I ever talked to him as far as I knew. I didn't. But anyway, he said, you wrote 3 or 4 pages. Obviously, back then I was drinking, but any kid who even intimated suicide, of course I would, there's no email. You'd have to write back to these kids, but I answered everyone. And he said, he was ready to kill himself, but he got your letter and nobody else wrote, but you wrote. You wrote like 4 or 5 pages and that stopped him from killing himself. And he told me afterwards, it scared me because I'm his best friend. He didn't even tell me, but he got your letter and it stopped him from killing himself. And now he's got 3 kids. He's married. He's happy. He's got a wife. And he said, he wanted me to tell you, to give you a hug. And he said, you saved his life. If it wasn't for your letter, he would have killed himself. And how do you put a price tag on something like that? You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's just like, wow. So you never know. I'm real careful talking to people as far as I love to give people shit that deserve it. But you know what I mean? As far as kids and stuff, you don't know. You got to, anyway, it was really something else to hear that. I was like, hey, man, we might not be as big as Green Day, but I saved someone's life, through music. And it's like, wow, man. So those are the little gifts you get. You guys know what you guys get it anyway.
I remember, listen, I was going through all kinds of, I just got done writing, I just submitted a story on my messed up childhood. And one of the things that got me through it was listening to punk bands like the Queers and different bands that, I mean, that stuff, literally going to shows on the weekends, hitchhiking to the State Theater and the Refuge in St. Pete, and Janice Landing. Those shows got me through that shit. That was my escape, and so bands like you guys had a huge impact on so many of us growing up in that generation. And just everything from the lyrics to the people who would go out there. Like you said earlier, it's kind of like we were all a bunch of misfits. We were all from messed up homes and all kinds of crazy shit. And that was our savior, just to get to go to a punk show for $5 bucks.
You were welcome.
$5.
People.
And just get to dance it out and have fun and meet people and laugh at people and shit. And, and then get to go home and write our own music. That was a savior for us. It really was. And you can't put a price tag on that.
That's right. That's how the scene was. Everybody, so many kids, they came and they're like, oh my God, other than watching the Brady, but you know what I mean? It was like that was only good so far as I went, but you could show up at a punk show and people didn't call you an asshole and say you were stupid or you were fat or you were skinny or you're dumb or no, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And this guy, changing the subject just slightly, this girl came up to us back in the day. I think she lived in the hills outside San Diego. And they got caught in one of those wildfires where, the house, everybody, place around, the hills were burning up. They were out in this, the hills, and they were all on fire. And the helicopter couldn't come get them, and they thought that they were going to die. Her family, it was like her little brother, and the parents. And she said, we were stuck. We couldn't get out of there, crying and all that stuff. And she went down to her room, and she put on Love Songs for the Retarded. And she played it over. And she said, that saved my life. She said, you guys, she was crying, telling me, I never forget it. And I don't know if I saw her afterwards, but she said, all I did was play love songs over and over. And she was so scared. But like you say, and you go to a show and life sucks, but all of a sudden you go, God, I was accepted. And I could laugh again. But I remember that time too. The girl just said that was the only thing I felt that saved me was the Love Songs for the Retarded. So you never know. You never know. But that was the special stuff about the scene, that getting back to what Dan is saying, that I think we're lacking now. But those days were really special for all of us. at the State Theater and stuff. Oh God, yeah.
Oh, that was when I used to go to your shows. It would be like you couldn't move. It would be packed, like insane.
Val, I was at the State Theater, right? I don't know if you knew this cop. There was a little, I think they call him Little Hitler. He was a little short cop that got run off the force after a year or two. But he came, we did our show. It was like sold out, packed. One of those, and I think it was a Sunday afternoon. And someone had left the back door, that's on the alley at the State Theater. And someone had left it cracked. Well,
I've been back there many times.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the alley. Right? I can go there blindfolded right now. And someone left the door cracked. Well, the cops walk in the back door. I just get off stage, and the guy comes up, and I had a little necklace thing right here that said the queers, and he flipped it twice. He was a little short guy trying to provoke me. He goes, "You the singer in the band? You're going to jail, my friend." And I go, "What? I just get off stage. The place is where 1,000 people or something going bonkers." And he's like, "You're going to be arrested." I said, "For what?" He goes, "Disturbing the peace. Because you were caught taking all the money. The back door was open. There wasn't even any houses around there. But that guy was a real troublemaker." So
St. Pete cops are assholes, man. They're the worst.
The guy with him did not like him, the other cop, though. And then I found out from the owner, who's the English guy on the State Theater?
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name. I know who you're talking about, though. He used to be there sometimes. I remember.
They went talking to him, and he was afraid he was going to get busted. So at that moment, Bobby, our manager at the time, snuck me out the back door, and I hightailed it around. I went to the front of the club, and I begged someone to give me a ride to the hotel. Just someone that was at the show. And they said, "Yeah, come on, Joe." And they gave me a ride. I don't know who it was. And that's how I got out of there and hiding. But I heard that. But I heard they ran him off out of there. And I heard that from that owner of the State Theater. I forget his name. But anyway, yeah, I remember those shows well. But yeah, I was just Berkeley. We'd go on a Tuesday night, like we'd be staying at the guys from Dillinger 4 in Minneapolis for a few days. They were in a band called Scooby Don't. And
that's a pretty good name.
They call up on a Tuesday afternoon. We weren't going to leave till like Friday when we had a show in Kansas City or something. We're just hanging out. And like, "Hey, there's a show this afternoon or this evening at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday school day in Mankato. Do you guys want to play?" We'd go down there. There'd be 350 kids last minute, at a punk show. It was amazing, but it was such a warm, welcoming time.
Yeah, that scene was ridiculous there. It was like, and now it's funny because all the people who still live down there are just so angry at what happened to downtown St. Pete because it was like the punk spot. It was a great spot. We had a huge punk scene in St. Pete, and
the last time we went
sucks
there,
now.
We played across the street. If you come out of the front of the State Theater, I believe it was just to the left diagonally. It was across the street, local 506 or something.
I took the Chanksta there and Chivo. Remember we went to, he's talking about that little dark bar, right? Across the street next to the record shop.
I think it was called Local something or other. We played a show there, I'm saying, across the street. It was packed, but it closed. But that was a cool place. That was a really cool place right down there. But I haven't been down there since then, and that's probably 7 years ago.
Yeah, it changed a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as the scene, though, it was great. What I was saying was like, you go to Berkeley, you go to Mankato. It was all like this huge, great scene. Everybody was on the same. It was a real exciting time. Green Day was hitting the big with Tukey. It was so cool.
Wow.
And cool. So that's the difference between then and now. And it's like now nobody can have a sense of humor. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah,
people aren't getting the joke, or they choose not to get the joke and twist it into some mean thing so they can, call you a racist and somehow pretend they're on some higher moral plane than the rest of us lowly peons, when it's the other fucking way around, But anyway, just it's like on this album we're making, I'm not apologizing, whatever. I'm just going to do my thing, and I think that we need more of that stuff and don't conform to worried about what other people are going to think. The problem is, you guys know it. They hate the queers anyway. These people, none of them that bitch like us. So, we're going to do our thing. But I'm going to go in the logbook now and tell you guys, I bet they give a shit because of the Attack of the 5-Foot Bitch. Somehow that'll turn into hatred against women and stuff. You know what I mean? It's great.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of add on to what you were just saying about playing out in venues. Do you have a specific venue that you love or a place you love to play? I know you guys go overseas a lot and you love it over there, but is there a place that you just like love playing at, or a city?
It kind of depends on the clubs and stuff. I hate to pick one out because I guess I don't have kids, but it's like,
so many.
What's your favorite kid? You child, if you have a kid, what do you say? But at any given time, it could be Chicago or Boston or Milan, Italy, or, God, you guys, we went up to Moscow on a Sunday night. We only had 2 nights we could have gone to Russia, and they said, okay, we'll do a show Sunday night and Monday, Moscow and St. Pete. And we went up there, and I'm telling you, it was great. It was like 400 or 500 kids there, sold out on a Sunday night. I'm walking through the crowd. Joe Queer. They knew the words to every song. We're in Russia. Punk rock girls, Joe Queer. I was like, geez, Louise. I said to the guys afterwards, I said, I would have paid $2,000 to play this gig. We're making gigs, but there's Mimi asking me about something. I guess nothing too important. But anyway, so it can be any given night. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be like 1 million people either. It could be 25 people, and all of a sudden you have the show of the century.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
You never know. But Milan, Chicago, Reggie's, Boston, I love all those things, but it could be bottom of the hill in San Fran. It just depends. And, sometimes too, you show up and the stars are just aligned and you're like, my God, this was incredible. We had a couple shows with Screeching Weasel like that. On a Sunday afternoon at the Fonda Theater in LA, and that one was sold out. And Richie Ramone, I had contacted him and asked him if he'd come down and play drums with us in a couple songs. So he showed up, and the show was fun. But the best part was hanging around backstage with him and Dusty Watson, the drummer, Dusty Watson, good friends of mine. And we just hung out. We had the best time just sitting back there talking. And then finally someone comes and they're like, someone ran down Dave, who was playing bass. Like, dude, we got to go on. So Richie says he's going to play Cretin Hop, Rockaway, and Sheena with us. Doesn't go to look at the drum set. We're down there talking. We're on the way up the stairs, right? They turn the lights off. And I said, okay, I'll call you up in about 10 minutes. He said, okay, which song are we doing first? How we starting Cretin? Anyway, no rehearsal whatsoever. Not one of these guys. How you see these drummers sit in and they've got to adjust the throne and they've got to do this and the cymbal.
Fuck it, it's nonsense.
No, he just sat down on the drum kit and played and sounded like $1 million. And that's a real pro. I'm sure he didn't like the way it was set up, but he sounded like $1 million. So, but that show was really special. That was like, oh man, one of those just killer shows that went over great. We had such a fun time.
I want to actually kind of go off on that one because you have to kind of start to get into it a little bit. But you were mentioning about like touring with like Screeching Weasel and then like also having Richie Ramone sit in with you. This might be really hard for you to choose, but is there any like tour that you have like you like touring with bands like you like touring with particularly?
Bands that I like touring with?
Yeah, like who's like what bands do you like really like touring with, and like which one really like sticks out to you? Like what tour sticks out to you?
Oh, we like these days. One of our favorite bands to tour with is the Dickies. We've got shows the end of August into September. We've got shows lined up with them. I don't know what it was. About 5 years ago, we started playing with the Dickies, and geez, it was just magical. It just works really good. I love touring with them. Some of the great tours we did. One with the Muffs, I think, was the longest tour the Muffs ever did. That summer of like '93 or '4 or something. And that was one that sticks out where it's just incredible. But the Independents. We've had so many fun tours. Swinging Utters, and you can't. It's hard to pick one. We usually have a pretty good time on tour. And now these days, it has nothing to do with getting drunk, because in the old days it was drinking and so-and-so woke up with his pants down his ankles and a friggin' goat pen or something. You know what I mean? That type of shit. But nowadays it's just, really off the show and just the goofy stuff. And it's been really nice to learn that you can have fun without drugs and drinking, because for years, that's all I did. Just, I thought, hey, I'm at a show. In the old days, I grew up like where you'd go to a show and people would offer you some coke. You weren't druggy. You're like, yeah, thank you. Or the Ramon shows. And, it was just the way that it was, drinking beer and all that stuff, So, but anyway.
It's a hypothetical question. It's a fun question. So if you had a budget, a no budget, you can as much money as you wanted to spend on it, you had a fully funded music festival you could run. and you could choose any bands to play with in any location, where would it be, and what bands would you have play with you?
Bands now or bands through the years?
It doesn't matter.
Anyone.
Throughout
Could be your fantasy.
Any. Yeah, you could have like the hypothetical concert of.
I would love to play with the Dickies, Ramones, and the Muffs. Probably that would be some of my great. And it's hard to say that stuff because I would love. There's a million other bands I'd love to go out with you guys and the Riptides, and you know what I mean. It's just like, yeah, man. But that would be a special one. It's special to me because I grew up worshiping the Ramones, so it was really special to know CJ and Richie and Marky, and I knew Joey, and so it's really cool to meet your heroes, and they're always, and with Joey especially, I looked up to him. He was a nicer guy, nicer than I knew he'd be nice, but he was even nicer than I thought he would be. So, but the Dickies, I was working at the Victoria Deli at 5 East 14th Street, Union Square, and I lived at 11th to be 546 East 11th. And I'm going to tell you, back then, this is like 79. I'll tell you guys, it was scary as hell living down there. At 11th to be, yeah, I'd have to come back from work, and I'd stop when I worked nights. I'd work all the time, but I stop at the corner of First and look down to A, and then make sure no gangs were coming up there. And I would hightail it down there at 100 miles an hour, and then I had a little spot, a little nook I would hide, and then make sure it was cool, especially going from A down to B. Then it really got hairy. The lights were out. We lived in an abandoned building down there, and so it was cool back then. I remember my roommate came in at that dump we lived in. We bootlegged into the gas and water and electric, and he had the Gigantor 7-inch on, I think, red vinyl, and so that was the first time I heard it by the day. I think that I'm friends with those guys now. It's pretty cool, It's like we never made $1 million, but I've been able to meet and be friends with some of my heroes because oh my God, I worship the Dickies. The first 2 albums and stuff. They've been a lot of fun to play with. And I'll tell you something, as a Dickies fan, they sound as good right now as they did in their heyday back in the late 70s. They sound amazing. It's great because it has nothing to do with speed. You'll see bands that go 100 miles an hour, and we've been guilty of it. The Dickies are always in the pocket. It's not like they get hyped up. They just stay in the pocket. But if you're sitting backstage listening to them, Gigantor, you think you're listening to the record. It is that good. Leonard's vocals, Stan's guitars, and Go Adam on the drums. So they are something else. I've learned a lot from watching them. But it's funny. It's fun playing with all the bands. It's fun. It's what you make of it. You know what I mean? You're out there. Like when I met you guys when you came down, you're all packed into the car. But it's an adventure, man. It's actually fun. It's like, who cares,
It's funny you mentioned that because we actually met you at a Dickies show.
The Dickies, yeah.
Yeah, they were at the Chance Theater, and you guys.
Was that dump out there in Poughkeepsie?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
We don't like them either. They make you pay to play.
Yeah.
But you guys, we were driving to that show. I remember that. I remember meeting you guys. Of course, that was fun. That was the best part of the show. Was sitting out meeting you guys out back to the spot.
That was.
But we were coming around the corner, and Poughkeepsie, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of become a hole. But we come around the corner on one of those streets, and we look down there, and there's this thug guy coming up with a bandana on his face, like staring at us. It was one of these things where we had to stop at a light or something. Nobody else was around, and this guy's coming up this alley. And we're like going, is this guy packing? It scared the hell out of us. And I go, dude, if he comes up and we see a gun, just floor it through the light. But I remember it was that night. It was the night I met you guys. We were terrified. But
yeah, no, I remember we were talking and they were playing. It was cool. It was definitely an experience. Anyways, I guess we'll go one more round.
All right, we'll do one more. So when you were growing up in New Hampshire, did you feel like, were you like the only punk kid? Like, were you into punk at that age, or were you like the rebel, like outcast? And did your parents support what you were doing, or were they like, what the hell are you doing? You're not going to be in a band.
I always played music. I played trumpet in the band, and then realized in high school I was only going so far with trumpet because I just physically didn't have the ability. But So I picked up the guitar, and then no, as far as the punk thing, I was into like David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, Mott the Hoople, Iggy and the Stooges, MC5, Mott the Hoople, T-Rex. It wasn't that much of a departure when the Ramones came around. It was kind of a natural thing for me. It all made sense with Ziggy Stardust to the Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power, and all. You know, it kind of all made sense. So. No, I mean, we were from New Hampshire, so we'd go to shows in Boston, and we were all insecure little New Hampshire nerds because we didn't grow up in the city, and, you know, that was how we felt. But yeah, we went and saw a lot of shows. But up where we were from now, it wasn't, I mean, I didn't go walking around like Gigi Allen back then either. Gigi in 1978, I remember he was in a fishnet stockings, high heels, and a mini dress at the Ramones show in Manchester, New Hampshire, which took some balls, I'll tell you, back then.
Can you tell that story about when you found out Gigi was a wimp?
Well, I did tell him I was going to work on that song, and he got a kick out of it. But yeah, he was my friend Don. I was talking to someone about that. Yeah, Don. He was going to beat the crap out of us because Gigi was drumming, I was on guitar, and Don was on bass. Don got whiskey drunk, and he wanted me and Gigi to play Leonard Skinner. Give me 3 steps, and you know, Wet Sweet Home when we said no. So then we had to like stop rehearsal and get out of the place and closed up the restaurant where we were. It's like in the winter. And then get out in the car, and Dawn was going to jumped up on the hood and all that. He jumped down and grabbed my side mirror and just grabbed it with one hand. I still can't believe he did it. He didn't wrestle it or anything. He just pulled it off and threw it. That's when Gigi's like, let's get out of here.
He wasn't throwing poop then, was he?
No, it's probably coming out of his ass.
Yeah, it was coming out. He wasn't throwing it.
That's when it started. That's how it all started.
Exactly.
That's all.
John was a big guy. I mean, you didn't want. He's a just ignorant, drunk, whiskey drunk redneck, and so this guy was sober. But a true story. When I moved out, like after high school, I moved out to Venice Beach, and Don was an excellent bass player. That guy, but he just never really got out of New Hampshire, except for when I moved out to Venice Beach, California, and he came. Anyway, the LA Recycler that always advertised for musicians, Don tried out for this band, and it turned out to be Oingo Boingo. You know, the guy who does The Simpsons.
Oingo Boingo.
They wanted him on bass. They wanted him to play bass. And he was really good on bass. And so they wanted him to join the band, and they called him a few times, and then he's like, oh, fuck it. He was drinking too much. And he's like, I want to play with you and Wimpy Joe. But it was sad that he never went down that road, because he went back to New Hampshire and he was drinking, and then he was in a cover band, and then he got a motorcycle and he was dead by 23. And it was really sad. And he went, he's like, oh, Don, stay here. Go with Oingo Boingo and see. No, that's the guy that does the Simpsons theme and everything. Oingo Boingo.
Oh yeah, that's
the guy that's the I can't think of his name, but you know what I'm talking about, Fabes.
Yes, I do. I do. He's like one of my favorite composers, and I can't remember his name.
And he's huge, and he does music stuff. I mean,
Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman. His name is Danny Elfman.
Yeah, Danny Elfman.
Yes.
And they wanted Don, probably because he was some nut from New Hampshire, and that kind of appealed to them. I bet you. He wasn't certainly not an LA hipster, and but it's just sad that he didn't do it. But that's a true story. Yeah.
Oh man, that's terrible.
Terrible.
That's terrible.
I guess.
Anyway, yeah.
I guess I'll do my last question. You mentioned a bunch of names like David Bowie and the Stooges, and then the MC5. I was wondering, just ran off the top of my head, is there your top 3 favorite albums of all time? I'm just curious. What would you have to put up there?
Oh shit, man! I don't. Probably.
Bad at those two.
There's so many; it's hard to pick them out. But I would say, Bones, Leave Home. Mm-hmm. Rolling Stones, Beggar's Banquet. I love that album. Beach Boys, Endless Summer, but then I can't say Black Flag Damaged, and I can't say The Damned, but first album, and it's hard to pick them. But even now, well, you guys know me, so but like this morning, I was listening to the old band from Chicago, the Shy Lights. Remember the soul band from the 70s? Old Girl, and Have You Seen Her and stuff, and Hello, Jeff Lynne, the Time album. I listen to a lot of that stuff because I really like it helps me in the punk stuff because we're so so rigid, and I think a lot of bands aren't inventive enough. And it gives me ideas. And a lot of times when we got just these 3 chords, 2 or 3 chords, we'll work with, or 4 chords. It really helps to have that, like we said, Val, we said that back vocal all of a sudden kicks it in and it changes the whole thing. So I try to listen to that stuff. And people laugh, but I used to sing falsetto to practice. I would sing along with Have You Seen Her by the Shy Lights. Have you seen her, Timmy? Have you seen her? Oh, I do that. That's how I could sing the falsetto and Don't Back Down. And I would practice in the car, and that's how I would practice, and I was able to sing. And so, but I always like listening to these days a lot of ELO and Jesus Imagine, a lot of melodic stuff rather than I listen to a lot of punk stuff, just personally anyway. So it's hard to pick a top 3 albums, but definitely. And then I met, I became fairly good friends with Jimmy Miller, who produced 7 Rolling Stones records. He did Beggar's Banquet, Let It Bleed. He did up to, I think it's only Rock and Roll. Don't Setsu. Wow. So it was amazing for me. Here's a guy who grew up listening to Stones and all that. And I met the guy that produced the albums. His mom lived in Boston, and he was over there living. And Q knew, drugs and stuff. But anyway, it was unreal. And I remember sitting around with Jimmy talking to him. It was just me and him. We were in a session. Everybody else had left. And they were coming back. I don't know. They went to get booze or something. And so I was talking to him about Brian Jones. And then he was telling me about the drums he played on Happy, Exile on Main Street. He played on You Can't Always Get What You Want because Charlie couldn't get the beat. And then he told me he actually played the cowbell in Honky Tonk Woman. Honky Tonk Woman, an iconic rock song, maybe top 10. And he played the fucking cowbell in Honky Tonk Woman. So, dude, it's pretty
crazy.
Like
That's crazy.
I mean, geez, Louise, just hear the story. So, again, though, down to earth. As down to earth as anybody. Just like we're talking right here. Not proud of what he had done, but not a shred of arrogance or anything. Totally down to earth. Unbelievable.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So this brings us to the last question of the night, and mine's also a fun one. I like to think it's a fun question.
You're not fun.
Oh, they're getting on your face. You
know what? Oh, anyway, so forget you guys. This is just me and you, Joe. We'll just talk. Anyway. So, all right. So, you say you listen to a lot of like melodic, like bands and stuff beyond punk. If you had another genre that if you wanted to focus in other than punk music, what other genre would you play? And what other musicians from any period would you have brought in to bring in to play with?
I'm not quite sure. That's a good question, really. That's an interesting one. I don't know. I guess if it wasn't punk, it would be tied in with rock music somehow, I guess. Though some of the funnest times I had playing rock per se was when I played trumpet and we were in the jazz band. I was first trumpet, so my brother was a couple years younger, but he was all state trombone player. So he would actually come down. Anyway, we had the dance band, the jazz band, and then the marching band. It was really fun for me to be able to read music, but also some of the fun times was in the jazz band, and I loved that type of stuff being like, I think that I was first trumpet, but I liked it. You had first, second, third trumpets, and then you had the sax, and you had first, second sax, and trombone first, and drums, and you have the clarinets, and you mix the whole thing together. And the jazz band was some of the funnest times. I don't have the chops. I got to a certain level and I realized I couldn't do the staccato notes. But other than that, if I could play, physically able to do that, I would definitely be in something like a jazz band. I just love that. But it gets back to like one time on PBS, I just happened to stumble into a 3-piece jazz band in the hotel room, and I was in Europe and couldn't understand anything. They were American guys, and I can't remember who they were. Fairly famous, but yet not a household name. But I watched them for about 2 hours, and they were just in the pocket. And I was thinking, music transcends anything. If you see a band that's just great, it doesn't matter the genre, really. They're like in the pocket. They're just happening. And so, but I think I would. I had a ball doing that jazz band thing. I had a ball doing that. It was really fun to learn the parts and how things fit together and the harmonies and all that. So that was fun. I don't know as I'd be playing it except for fun, obviously, but anyway. So
that's pretty cool, man. Well,
awesome.
Well, Joe, man, thank you very much. I think we.
Joe.
Oh yeah, handmates.
Cheeto.
Hoglog.
And Hogwash.
Hogwash and Cheeto.
Cheeto just
Hogwash.
Cheeto's in Florida. He drove down. That's where goes down once a month. Is soon to be wife, her daughter, his stepdaughter, sees her dad one weekend out of a month. So they went to Jacksonville, where he's from. They're all from. So they're down there. Hogwash they just opened up again. They opened their store up from curbside. They got a collectible comic book store, game store.
Oh, cool.
He said yesterday was the first day and it was just mobbed. So he's today. And I'm just going to sit here and I figured out the parts for the vocal on this song, Leave That Girl Alone. And so I'm going to finish that and try to
Speaking of organized. I gotta tell you, like Hoglock for me personally, I've seen so many drummers play,
he's amazing.
And just watching him play, like the enthusiasm he plays, he's. I gotta say, I got all the drummers I've ever witnessed live. He is just something. He's a sight to see.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
Yeah, his enthusiasm is great. We played so many shows the past few years that we had to really use a click track and really pay attention to it because we would speed up because he's so into it. If he has a fault, that's it, which he knows. He's like, I just get going so much. He's like, awesome. The song and everything going, fuck, I'm playing in the queers this week. But anyway, he's a good drummer, yeah.
We have no idea what that's like.
Oh, yeah, really? Yeah, exactly.
Turn the fuck down. Turn down.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, Joe. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best.
Thanks for having me on.
Woo, woo, woo.